David here with Figboot on Pens. Today I'm going to be taking a look at another pen that was sent to me by my friend Andres. It is a pen from Omas, the Italian manufacturer, which unfortunately went out of business a few months back. It's a real shame because they made some really quality pens, and some really remarkable ones as well. And the pen I have today is called the Cristoforo Colombo II. And this is what it looks like. What I'm going to do is go over some of the parts and the features of this pen, talk about some of the things I care for, some of the things I don't care for, give some measurements, some size comparisons, and then provide a writing sample. The Colombo II was produced in the mid-90s to celebrate the 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus discovering the New World. They started manufacturing the pens in 1992, but this specific one was manufactured in 1995. The pen is named after a sailing ship that was built by an Italian company called Velicelli. And this is a drawing of what the ship looked like. I was having difficulty finding any evidence that it still exists, so it may or may not still be around. But it appears to have been a training ship for the Italian Naval Academy, which required a crew of 7 or 8 people to sail. The pen actually comes in a very unique box, which I don't have, but it kind of is shaped a bit like a sail and is made out of the same material as the boat was made out of, the hull of the boat. This pen is made out of briar wood, which is actually the root of the plant. The material is extremely hard and heat resistant, and typically it's used for things like smoking pipes because it's heat resistant and doesn't really affect the aroma of the pipe tobacco smoke. It's also used for things like jewelry and knife handles, and in this case, pens. This is a limited edition pen, but it's not numbered on the pen itself. Maybe it was numbered in the documentation that came with the pen, but it's not on the pen itself. The top of the cap is slightly pointed, and that it's very smooth. And then the cap, as well as the rest of the pen, has 12 facets that you can see here. The clip is a bit on the short side, but it is very functional and decent in regard to its springiness, and that it's not overly tight. And then we have the cap bands, which are pretty cool. You can see here that there is a thin band, then the thick band with the traditional Omas Greek key design. The bands themselves are faceted, which I think is really cool. And there's no branding on the cap band at all. Then we have the barrel of the pen, which, like I said, is faceted, as well as tapers down very slightly, a little less than 1 millimeter from the end here down to this end, which has a gold band and then a piston knob, that this is a piston filler. And that on the barrel itself, it actually says Omas Colombo II. The cap twists off to reveal this very nice two-tone nib. It has an arrow design that's kind of reminiscent of those that I've seen on some vintage Parker vacuumatics. And it also says Omas and 750, which represents the gold percentage, which is 75% for 18 karat gold. And then here's a picture of the ebonite feed. The section has a little flare at the end, and then a rather short grip section. And then we have the threads, which aren't particularly sharp. Then we have something cool here, which is another set of bands which mirror those on the cap with the Greek key design, but they are round rather than faceted. And then there is a angled transition into the barrel that isn't sharp. It's smooth. And then here actually on the section, it says 1995 engraved on the section, and that's the year that the pen was actually manufactured. The short section kind of limits your grip options, but it is very comfortable. The pen is lighter than you think it would be. It does posts securely, and that it really doesn't backweight the pen at all. In fact, you can hardly tell the difference between when it is posted and not posted. Even though it's a bit long, it's very usable posted. And you can see in the measurements, but the cap only weighs 6 grams. And the total pen weighs less than a Pilot Metro and less than a Lamy All-Star. So it's a very, very light pen. But it's sturdy. And the wood gives it a bit of warmth. The downside of this pen is that there's multiple facets on the threads, so the engraving of the Omas Colombo doesn't always match up with the clip, which is a little annoying for me. But another downside of this Colombo pen is the price. Now, this is a limited edition pen. I'm not sure how large or small the run was, but it's from a company that's no longer in existence. And I've seen this pen priced anywhere from $900 to $1,800. So there's a wide gap in the potential price. This is a quality pen made of unique materials that looks fantastic, but in my opinion, the high end of that range is a little bit on the ridiculous side. I think the low range is still stretching a little bit. I might keep my eye out for one of these and try to find a good deal, because it is something a little bit different. And as we see in the writing sample, it performs very, very well. So now it's time to show some measurements, some size comparisons, and then I'll provide a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Omas Cristoforo Colombo II. In regard to some other Italian pens, this is what it looks like next to a Visconti Homo sapiens. Then we have a recent acquisition, which is a Delta Dolce Vita oversized. And then here it is with a Omas Ogiva cocktail. And you can see it's fairly similar in size to the Ogiva. And in regard to some non-Italian pens, here it is with a TWSBI Diamond 580 and a Lamy All-Star, and then a Pilot Metropolitan. And as I had mentioned, this is a very light pen. It's actually lighter than both the both the Metropolitan as well as the All-Star. So here we have the Omas Cristoforo Colombo II. And this is a medium 18K nib. And the ink is Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. And here we go with the writing sample. And this pen, even though it's a medium, it writes on the kind of on the fine side of medium. Just to compare, the Ogiva cocktail is something that's more, this is a medium as well. A little bit of a hard start. And you can see that this is a much thicker medium, even though it came from Omas, but the medium here on the Colombo is just a little bit thinner, so it's just more on the fine side of medium. But it does have a decent amount of flex to it, and you can get a decent amount of line variation. You can see with just a little bit of pressure, you can get a decent amount there. And in regard to the ink flow, it's a little bit on the wet side. And in regard to reverse writing, it is very scratchy, but it does lay down a very nice extra fine line. And then in regard to some fast writing, doesn't have any issues whatsoever. So I'd like to thanks to my friend Andres, who is always willing to share some of his new acquisitions, and that I appreciate that. Gives me a chance to take a look at some things that I might not have checked out on my own. So there you have the Omas Cristoforo Colombo II. You know, it's a real quality pen that's made from very interesting material, and a pen that feels really great in the hand and performs very well. You know, if you like what you see, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I have several giveaways coming up over the next few months, and if you're subscribed, you can get the notifications whenever I post a video. So I appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.